A man trapped and reaching for help, just like the others who vanished, leaving only eerie clues and final photos. What happened to them? You're about to find out. A young man sprints through an airport, glancing over his shoulder as if something or someone is chasing him. His movements are frantic. He dashes past travelers, pushing through the doors, into the open air, and then, he's gone. This is the last confirmed sighting of Lars Mittank, a 28-year-old German tourist who disappeared without a trace in July 2014. It all started as a fun vacation with friends. The group traveled to Bulgaria, enjoying the sun and beaches of Golden Sands. Everything was going well until a minor argument at a bar led to Lars getting injured. A blow to the head left him with a ruptured eardrum, and a doctor advised him not to fly until it healed. His friends had already booked their return flights, but Lars made the decision to stay behind alone. It was a choice that would lead to one of the most unsettling disappearances in recent history. Over the next few days, Lars's behavior took a bizarre turn. He called his mother, whispering that he was being followed. He sent strange messages, warning that she shouldn't trust anyone. His paranoia grew. He switched hotels, saying he didn't feel safe. He was last seen at Varna Airport, where he had booked a flight home. At first everything seemed normal. He checked in, sat in the waiting area. But then, suddenly, something spooked him. Surveillance footage shows Lars standing in the terminal, looking around nervously. Then without warning, he takes off running. He sprints through the airport, past security, past travelers, past everyone, then out the doors, onto an open field. Witnesses saw him disappearing into the trees, heading toward a vast, empty landscape. No one ever saw him again. Search efforts turned up nothing, no signs of struggle, no belongings left behind. His mother pleaded for answers, but none came. A young woman drives down a dark, snowy road in rural New Hampshire. Her car swerves off the highway, crashing into a snowbank. A passerby offers help, but she refuses. By the time authorities arrive, she's gone. No footprints leading away, no sign of struggle, just an empty vehicle and an eerie silence. This is the last confirmed moment of Maura Murray, a 21-year-old nursing student who vanished on February 9, 2004. Earlier that day, Maura left her dorm in Massachusetts, emailing her professors that she needed time off due to a family emergency. There was no emergency. Instead, she withdrew cash, bought alcohol, and set off in her car, heading north. No one knows why. The crash on Route 112 was minor. A local resident saw her standing outside the vehicle, appearing uninjured, and offered assistance. She declined, saying she had called AAA. That wasn't true. There was no call. Minutes later, she disappeared. Theories have swirled ever since. Some say she ran away, others believe she met with foul play. Search dogs lost her scent in the middle of the road as if she had been picked up by someone. Her credit cards, phone, and bank accounts were never used again. To this day, the mystery lingers, haunting investigators and internet sleuths alike. Where did Maura go? And did she mean to disappear? Or did someone make that decision for her? 3 years later, another disappearance, another set of unanswerable questions, but this time, it was a 14-year-old boy who walked straight into the unknown. September 14, 2007, started like any other day. Andrew Gosden got up, dressed in his school uniform, and left home. But instead of heading to school, he withdrew money from his bank account, changed into casual clothes, and bought a one-way train ticket to London. The last confirmed image of him was captured by CCTV at King's Cross Station. After that, nothing. He was never seen again. Andrew was quiet, intelligent, and preferred spending time at home rather than socializing. He had no history of running away, no signs of distress. His family was blindsided. Why would he travel to London alone with no phone, no extra clothes, and no plan to return? His bank account was never touched again. His bedroom remained untouched, as if he had stepped out for a moment and would be right back. Years passed, with only fragments of possible clues. A call to the police in 2018 suggested Andrew might still be alive, but the lead went cold. No confirmed sightings, no answers. Like Maura, Andrew vanished in an instant, leaving behind only speculation and a single haunting image. Him, standing in a train station on the verge of disappearing forever. Not all disappearances happen in the shadows. Some unfold in broad daylight, in places where civilization fades and the unknown takes over. That's exactly what happened to Michael Rockefeller. In 1961, the 23-year-old heir to one of the richest families in the world set off on an expedition to New Guinea, drawn to the remote Asmat tribes and their art. He was adventurous, curious, and determined to go further than anyone before him. But on November 17th, his journey came to a sudden, unexplained halt. His boat capsized off the coast, leaving him and his companions stranded in the water. The other man stayed with the wreckage, but Michael made a fateful decision. He took off his clothes, strapped on some makeshift floats, and swam toward shore. It was the last time anyone ever saw him. The official story is that he drowned, but people who knew the area weren't convinced. The Asmat people had a history of ritual revenge against outsiders. Some believe Michael made it to land but didn't survive what came next. Others think he lived, taken in by the tribe, forced into a life no one would ever discover. His father, Nelson Rockefeller, launched one of the most expensive searches in history, but no trace of Michael was ever found. A powerful name, endless resources, yet still vanished, as if he had never existed at all. Decades after Michael Rockefeller disappeared, another mystery unfolded. Not in a jungle, but 35,000 feet above the ocean. A plane, a routine flight, and 239 people who simply ceased to exist. On March 8, 2014, Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 took off from Kuala Lumpur, heading for Beijing. It was a clear night, nothing unusual. Then, less than an hour after takeoff, the plane veered off course. Radar contact was lost. No distress signals, no emergency calls, just silence. What followed was one of the largest search operations in history. Satellite data suggested the plane had made a sharp turn, flying thousands of miles in the wrong direction before vanishing somewhere over the Indian Ocean. Debris washed up on distant shores, but the aircraft itself was never found. What happened? Some believe it was mechanical failure. Others suggest human intervention. Theories range from hijacking to deliberate sabotage, but there is no proof, just endless speculation. And then, there are the eerie details. The pilot's flight simulator, which had a route eerily similar to the one MH370 took. The missing cargo, the unanswered calls. Like Michael Rockefeller, MH370 should have left something behind. Wreckage, a signal, a reason. Instead it became a modern ghost story. One of the greatest aviation mysteries of all time, with no ending in sight. A packed bar, loud music, and a medical student celebrating the start of spring break. It was just another night out in Columbus, Ohio, until Brian Schaffer stepped into a bar and never stepped out. On April 1, 2006, the 27-year-old went out with friends to the Ugly Tuna Saloona, a popular college hangout. Surveillance footage shows him standing near the entrance, talking and laughing. A little after 2 a.m., as the bar was closing, cameras caught him moving toward the exit. But then, nothing. Brian never left the building, at least not on camera. His phone was never used again. His apartment remained untouched. His car was still parked outside. A security camera covered every way out, yet there was no sign of him leaving. The only blind spot? A back exit leading to a construction site. Could he have slipped through unseen, fallen, met with foul play? Theories spiraled. Some thought he staged his own disappearance, but he had no known reason to leave his life behind. Others believed he was harmed and somehow removed from the bar without a trace. His girlfriend kept calling his phone for months, and once, just once, it actually rang before cutting off. Was it a glitch? Or was Brian still out there somewhere? What makes this case even stranger is what happened afterward. His mother, devastated, passed away unexpectedly. At her funeral, a candlelight vigil was held for Brian. As the service ended, his father released a balloon with a message for him. Just a few weeks later, a freak accident took his father's life too. Now there's no one left in Brian's immediate family to keep searching, but the question remains, how does someone vanish from a crowded bar with cameras at every door? Brian Schaffer disappeared without a trace, but sometimes a disappearance leaves behind fragments, just enough to be disturbing. That's exactly what happened in 2014 when two Dutch tourists, Chris Kremers and Lisanne Froon, set off on a hike in Panama and never returned. The two friends had been staying in the town of Boquete, planning to explore the surrounding jungle. On April 1st, they set out on the Pianista Trail, a popular route for travelers. But something went terribly wrong. They didn't show up for a scheduled tour the next day. Calls went unanswered. Their families, thousands of miles away, knew something wasn't right. A massive search was launched, but it wasn't until 10 weeks later that a breakthrough came. Lisanne's backpack was found on a riverbank. Inside, their phones, a camera, and cash. The camera held something chilling. Photos, taken deep in the jungle, long after the women should have been lost. Some showed them smiling on the trail, seemingly unaware of any danger. But then, there were the nighttime photos, blurry random images of rocks, treetops, and the darkness beyond. Then more remains were discovered, bone fragments. But how did they die? The jungle is dangerous, but the state of their bones suggested something more. No scratches, no signs of an animal attack. Some were bleached, as if they had been deliberately treated. Theories range from a tragic accident to something more sinister. Did they get lost? Or did they meet someone in the jungle who didn't want them to leave? The photos, the incomplete evidence, the unsettling details. It's a mystery that feels like it should have an answer, yet all it leaves behind is an eerie sense of unfinished business. Some disappearances are immediate, a person vanishes in the blink of an eye. Others unravel slowly, piece by piece, growing stranger at every turn. Zeb Quinn's case is the second kind. The 18-year-old was last seen on January 2, 2000 in Asheville, North Carolina. But his disappearance wasn't just about him. It involved a suspicious friend, an abandoned car, and a series of bizarre clues that made no sense. That evening, Zeb finished his shift at a local Walmart and made plans with a co-worker, Robert Jason Owens, to check out a car he was interested in buying. They drove separately, with Zeb following behind. But along the way, something strange happened. Zeb suddenly flashed his headlights, signaling Owens to pull over. When they stopped, he seemed agitated. He had just received a message on his pager. He told Owens he needed to return the call and sped off, promising to meet back up later. He never did. 2 days later, his car turned up in a parking lot outside a restaurant. Inside were several strange items: a pair of lips drawn in lipstick on the rear windshield, a hotel key, and a live puppy. None of it belonged to Zeb. His family and friends had no idea what any of it meant. Even stranger, Owens, the last person to see him, later claimed that Zeb returned hours after their initial meetup, smacking his own face in distress before speeding off again. For years, there were no answers. Then, in 2015, Owens was arrested for an unrelated case, taking the life of a couple and disposing of their bodies. During the investigation, new evidence linked him to Zeb's disappearance. But by then, 15 years had passed, and Zeb's fate remained a mystery. His body was never found. His family still doesn't know what happened that night. The pager message, the abandoned car, the chilling connection to Owens. It's a story filled with clues yet no clear solution. What really happened to Zeb Quinn, and why does it feel like the truth is just out of reach? A pilot and her navigator, a daring flight around the world, and then, nothing. No distress call, no wreckage, just a plane that vanished mid-air, leaving behind one of the most enduring mysteries of all time. On July 2, 1937, Amelia Earhart and Fred Noonan took off from Lae, Papua New Guinea, in their Lockheed Electra, heading toward a tiny island in the Pacific, Howland Island. It was supposed to be a routine leg of their journey, one of the last before completing their historic flight. But as they approached their destination, radio transmissions grew frantic. Earhart's voice crackled over the airwaves, saying she was running low on fuel. Then, silence. Search teams scoured the ocean, but no trace of them or the plane was ever found. Theories multiplied. Some say they crashed into the sea and sank. Others believe they survived, stranded on a remote island, waiting for a rescue that never came. Decades later, skeletal remains were found on Nikumaroro, a desolate atoll that Earhart might have reached. The bones vanished before they could be properly studied, adding yet another layer of mystery. With no definitive answers, the disappearance of Amelia Earhart and Fred Noonan became legend. A pioneering woman lost to the sky, a navigator who mapped endless routes only to vanish without one, and a flight that should have ended in triumph but instead left behind only questions. Amelia Earhart disappeared while flying over the ocean, but nearly 4 decades later, another traveler set off into the unknown, this time driving straight into the desert. His name was Jim Sullivan, a musician with an eerie connection to his own disappearance. In 1975, Sullivan packed up his car and left Los Angeles, heading east toward Nashville, hoping for a fresh start in his music career. He never made it. His car was found abandoned on a remote dirt road in New Mexico. Inside were his belongings, his guitar, clothes, even his wallet, but Sullivan was gone. What makes his case even stranger is his 1969 album, UFO, which was filled with lyrics about being lost in the desert, being taken by something unseen. Some believe he wandered off and succumbed to the elements. Others think he was running from something or someone. A few even suggest he was taken, just like his music described. No footprints, no remains, no clues. Just an empty car, a silent desert, and a man who seemed to have vanished right into thin air. A 15-year-old girl hurries out of music class, a black and white flute case tucked under her arm. She stops to make a quick phone call, then heads toward her usual bus stop. But she never makes it home. In the middle of Vatican City, one of the most secure places on earth, Emanuela Orlandi vanished without a trace. It was June 22, 1983. Emanuela was the daughter of a Vatican employee, meaning she lived inside the walls of the Holy See. Her disappearance was dismissed at first, just a teenager running late, but when night fell and there was still no sign of her, panic set in. Then the phone calls started. A man with a foreign accent claimed he had Emanuela. He demanded the release of a high-profile prisoner in exchange for her return. Other calls followed, each more cryptic than the last. Some callers hinted at Vatican secrets, others pointed toward organized crime. As years passed, the mystery deepened. A gravesite was dug up inside the Vatican in 2019 after an anonymous tip claimed her body was there. The tomb was empty. Theories have only grown. Was she taken for ransom? Did she witness something she shouldn't have? Or was it something even more unthinkable? Despite countless investigations, no real answers have surfaced. Emanuela Orlandi remains one of the most puzzling missing person cases in modern history. A girl who walked out of a lesson and disappeared into the heart of one of the most powerful places in the world. A voice on the phone, the sound of footsteps, then suddenly, nothing. That was the last anyone ever heard from 19-year-old Brandon Swanson before he disappeared into the darkness of rural Minnesota. It was the night of May 14, 2008. Brandon had been celebrating the end of his college semester with friends. Around midnight, he left a party and started driving home. But something went wrong. His car veered off a gravel road and got stuck in a ditch. Stranded in the middle of nowhere, he called his parents for help. He told them he wasn't hurt, just annoyed. They agreed to pick him up, but when they arrived at the spot he described, there was no car, no Brandon. Frustrated and confused, Brandon stayed on the phone, insisting he could see distant lights. Maybe a town, maybe a farm. He decided to start walking toward them. His parents drove around trying to find him, all while keeping him on the line. For 47 minutes they talked, listening to his footsteps on the gravel, his breathing, his occasional muttering about the landscape. Then, out of nowhere he said, "Oh shh," and the call ended. No one knows what happened in that moment. His phone went silent. His parents redialed over and over, no answer. Searches spanned miles. Helicopters scanned the fields, search dogs tracked his scent, but only up to a point, as if he had just vanished. His car was eventually found, but miles away from where he had said he was. No remains, no evidence, no clear explanation. Was it an accident? Did someone find him? Or did he walk straight into something no one saw coming? The open Minnesota fields hold a secret, and somewhere out there, so does Brandon Swanson's fate. A cruise ship, a night of music and dancing, and a missing passenger who was never found. The disappearance of Amy Lynn Bradley is one of the most chilling mysteries to ever take place at sea. In March 1998, Amy, a 23-year-old from Virginia, was vacationing with her family aboard the Rhapsody of the Seas. She spent the evening at the ship's nightclub hanging out with the band. By early morning she was seen lounging on the cabin's balcony. Then, she was gone. Her family woke up to an empty room. At first they thought she had gone to the deck to relax, but as time passed, panic set in. The ship's crew suggested she had fallen overboard, but Amy was a trained swimmer and there were no signs of struggle. Her parents begged the captain not to dock until a full search was done, but the ship continued its route. By the time authorities got involved, hours had been lost. Then came the sightings. Passengers claimed they had seen Amy on the ship after she was reported missing. Later, tourists reported seeing a woman resembling her in the Caribbean, on a beach, in a brothel, even whispering "help me" before vanishing into a crowd. A photograph surfaced years later showing a woman who looked eerily like Amy, dressed in revealing clothes, staring blankly at the camera. Did Amy fall victim to trafficking? Was she taken off the ship before anyone noticed? The ocean holds its secrets, but so do the people who may have seen Amy Bradley long after she was declared missing. A socialite steps out onto the busy streets of Manhattan, dressed in fine clothes, carrying a book she just purchased. She walks through Central Park, blending into the crowd, and then, she's gone. No struggle, no screams, no evidence of foul play. Just a young woman who vanished in broad daylight, leaving behind one of the oldest and most baffling missing person cases in history. Dorothy Arnold was 25 years old, wealthy, well-educated, and the daughter of a powerful New York family. On December 12, 1910, she left her home for a shopping trip. She bought chocolates, browsed a bookstore, and was last seen around 2 p.m. near Fifth Avenue. After that, nothing. When she didn't return home, her family assumed she was with friends. But as hours turned into days, their concern turned to dread. Her parents, afraid of scandal, didn't call the police right away. Instead, they hired private detectives who scoured hospitals, morgues, and train stations. No sign of Dorothy. Rumors exploded. Some believed she had run away to start a new life. Others thought she had fallen victim to a crime, possibly even someone she knew. There were whispers of a secret relationship, an unwanted pregnancy, even a tragic accident that someone covered up. For years, supposed sightings surfaced. Dorothy in Europe, Dorothy in an asylum, Dorothy taken by someone powerful enough to erase all traces of her, but none were ever confirmed. Her case faded into legend, a reminder that even in a crowded city, a person can disappear without a single clue. That's about it. What do you think happens to the missing people? Share your thoughts in the comments. For more useful information, watch other videos.